So I got this video that I put up, which is essentially saying the political compass is bullshit. And I think a lot of people understood my point, although some did not. I think the reason for this is that some people, they just don't want to let go of the paradigms, of the measuring tools they use to look at the world. So it's like they don't want to let these things go. It's just so easy to be able to say, this is right and this is left. This is conservative and this is liberal, right? But I don't think that those things work. I don't think they work. And I want to continue to like hammer this home that people don't seem to get it. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about Calendargate and Cakegate. I don't know if you guys know about Calendargate and Cakegate, but I'm going to be talking about that also on this before we do Badger's Gate, okay? So, but before we do that, I want to talk about one other thing. So let's take a look at this clip that's been going around. That was an interview excerpt with the feminist director of the new Star Wars film, and how her goal is to make men uncomfortable. Now, some people might be surprised at this. Some people might be like, well, why haven't they changed their ways? Why haven't they learned from, the sequel trilogy? Why is it like everything has been, the Force is female for like the past decade, or the MCU or whatever? Well, I think it's because they don't understand that these people who are creating content are not trying to make money. They are not trying to make their business profitable. The message is the only goal. So when people joke about the message and they say, oh, look, get woke, go broke and all that, you don't understand that these people are ideologically possessed. They don't actually lose anything by making flop after flop, but they do get to impact culture. And it's not just about a movie. It's not. It's about culture itself. It's about everything associated with their brand. So if you notice, in the case of Disney, for example, when they show, like say they have like a Star Wars thing that they do, like a I don't know, like a montage of Star Wars content, right? They will show all of the stuff that we grew up with. They'll show clips from the original trilogy. They'll even show clips from the prequel trilogy, but they'll also, as though it's on the same exact level, show a bunch of footage from their new, sort of post-Disney Lucasfilm content. So the sequel trilogy, all the TV shows, all of the animated things, everything else that they have done, they'll make that as much a part of Star Wars as the stuff that made Star Wars what it was, which is the original trilogy, and to a lesser extent, the prequels, right? And they do this with the intention of sort of like they're trying to essentially embed these images in the minds of people so that they see Kylo Ren or Rey or BB-8 and they think that's Star Wars just as much as Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Darth Vader and C-3PO and R2-D2, right? That's what they're doing. It's about conditioning the audience and normalizing this cultural vandalism in people. And they do it, and I'm not saying it's clever, because to me it's very obvious, but it is what they're doing. So when this director, they just got a new director to make, I guess, another Star Wars movie. And this new director is, I'm just going to play the clip of the interview, okay? Because there's something I want to talk about regarding, so none of this surprises me, by the way. I'm not surprised. I don't even have the energy to get upset about it. I'm so indifferent. But it is an interesting thing to watch people who are fans of Star Wars and who remain fans of Star Wars cope with this and try to rationalize. So let me play this clip and then I'm going to show you something else. Okay, here we go.
What is the balance of activating a force for change, but also trying to permeate that patriarchy, that power structure? And is that a part of the calculation of your art as well? And what's been the reaction to that?
Oh, absolutely. I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable. Not you, just not you. Not you.
Point taken, point taken.
But, it is important to be able to look into the eyes of a man and say, I am here, and recognize that. And recognize that I am working to bring something that makes you uncomfortable, and it should make you uncomfortable, because you need to change your attitude. And it's only when you're uncomfortable, when you're shifty, when you have to have difficult conversations, that you will perhaps look at yourself in the mirror and not like the reflection, and then say, maybe there is something wrong with the way I think, or maybe there is something wrong with the way I am addressing this issue.
So she is saying that she's intentionally trying to condition the fan base, which is majority men, like overwhelming majority men, right? Whatever remains of the fan base, like whatever's left after, like you had like the fan base of the original trilogy. And then you had the fan base that broke off after the prequels came out. And then you had the fan base that broke off after the sequels came out. And I personally like the prequels, but I understand why, I understand the criticisms. And I do think the prequels are inferior to the sequels. I feel the same way about the prequels that I do, say, about Peter Jackson's Hobbit trilogy compared to his Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Hobbit trilogy isn't terrible, and there is a really great fan edit out there. But it is weaker than Lord of the Rings. Definitely weaker, and by a lot. But, I think it still has some redeeming qualities. In fact, I don't want to go into this now, but you could go into, like, how some of our more modern progressive views is what ruined the Hobbit movies. Like, it still crept in. I mean, even Lord of the Rings had a little bit of it, right? But it was so strong in every other area, those things didn't end up affecting it very much. So she's not concerned with making money. She's not worried about profits. She's not even worried about the Star Wars brand. She never mentions the Star Wars brand. If you listen, all she says is, I like making men feel uncomfortable, after Jon Stewart says, oh, you're going to disrupt some patriarchy. And then she goes at the end, this will force men to look in the mirror. She doesn't say men, but that's what she means. And say, oh, I have to change. So this isn't about film. It's not about art. It's not about culture. It's about control. And it's always been about that. This is entryism, which is something I mentioned many times. Gamergate was talking about this. Okay, let's talk about Gamergate for a second. In 2015-ish, Gamergate was like kind of like riding high, right? And we were talking about it on the show. And I remember there was a split in Gamergate. There was a divide between the people who only wanted it to be about ethics in gaming journalism and the people like me that knew that it wasn't about ethics in gaming journalism. Even back then I said the thing is not actually, the thing that you think this is about is not what it's about. I didn't know what to call it back then, but there was an infiltration going on. It was entryism. It was communist woke entryism going into the video game industry. Now, the people in there, some of them might have actually been gaming nerds, but they also wanted to score some social points. They also wanted to do like what they thought was social justice, and they saw the gaming industry as a means to do it. And so they got involved with journalism. And then if they got a college education, then unless they had like, really involved parents and a strong community, they were probably going to get brainwashed and become woke activists using journalism as their tool. And I said that back then. I remember getting into some debates with people, and we used to do these streams, where I'd have people on, and you get like these centrist types that were like, well, I think we can like have both, or they would start sentences with things like, well, I don't have a problem with women in gaming. I don't have a problem with minority. I'm like, dude, that's not what you're not listening to me. That's not the thing. That's what they say it is. But that's not really what this is about. And this is the thing that people have to stop doing. They have to stop listening to what the left says and look at what the left does. You know, just because someone says they're something does not mean that they are. You have to look at what they're doing. Boda says, just got here. Who is she? Well, I don't know her name because I forgot it and I don't care. But she is a woman of color that was chosen to be the director of the next Star Wars film. Something I didn't think I would ever even say. But you see, that's the thing. Like, they will throw all their money in the toilet if they have to. But the saddest part about this is that even though she says, the goal is to make men uncomfortable, it will still be mostly men that will pay to watch this. It will be male, pathetic, simp, culture junkie men that will watch this movie, and then they will walk away and they will cope their way out of whatever bullshit they are fed. They will use every ounce of copium that they can get their hands on in order to make it sound like it was actually good. I enjoyed this. I learned something. It's like the people who watch Barbie and say it's secretly based. So, Toby says they're personalizing it, which is why they use the accusations. Yes, right. Well, you can't criticize her film because that makes you a misogynist. So, okay. No surprises there. Absolutely knew it. It wasn't like they were going to bring in somebody that was like a big fan of Star Wars. Even if they did, there's no guarantee it wouldn't still be like have a bunch of shitty woke crap in it anyway. Because like Dave Filoni, you know, he's like everybody's guy, but he's criticized the fan base too. He's called them misogynist, neckbeards, etc. And he's like the worst. I mean, like Ahsoka is basically his sex doll that he puts in everything. It's so pathetic. It's pathetic. So I think there is an issue of weakness. You know, we do live in a time of weak men. I know Allison doesn't like that, but it's true. Because if it doesn't mean that we're not like managing to keep the lights on and the the water running. But there's definitely a lot of really weak men that are kowtowing to women, and that is a big part of the problem. So speaking of which, so this happened, and there's this channel. I don't watch it really. I think I've seen it like once or twice way back when like The Force Awakens came out. And it's called Star Wars Theory. And the guy who works at or does content for it, he has not shaken out of his like absolute addiction to anything Star Wars. Like he will do anything to validate his fandom. When I loved Star Wars back in the day, and I have walked away like I went to see The Force Awakens not expecting anything, but my friends dragged me off. And when I saw it, I was like, yeah, it was garbage. And they were like, no, we'll have to see what they do. Whoa, there's so many unanswered questions. I was like, no, it's bullshit. I'm sorry, but don't apologize for The Force Awakens. It was crap. It wasn't just that there was nothing there. It was like the Rey character is lame. Like absolutely lame. All the characters were lame. Sorry, but some people say it started with The Last Jedi. No, it was Force Awakens was garbage, and there was no saving it from there. It only got worse. And that's just what I think about it. So I've walked away. Like I walked away back then. I mean, I didn't even like watch like the TV shows like Rebels and shit. Like I was done mostly halfway through the Clone Wars series, and I was like, okay, I think I've seen enough, And that's it. I mean, I played Jedi Fallen Order. I thought that was all right. I played Battlefront 2 because it was free, and but that was about the extent of it. I had the Lego one, those are fine. But I've walked away. But this guy, and I don't know if any of you guys follow or watch Star Wars Theory, but this guy, it's just sad. Like watching him try to cope with this, it's actually really, it really depresses me. Boda says, isn't he an artist? I don't know. Yeah, I think so. He does. I think he might be, but I don't watch him. Toby says, men need a stand your ground attitude towards this stuff. Absolutely. Well, this is the thing. Like back when Gamergate was going on, I said we should be gatekeeping. We should be gatekeeping these people. And the SJWs of the time, the wokies, the commies, the progressives, whatever you want to call it, they were using gatekeeping as a slur against people who would dare to gatekeep. And the problem too is that gamers they tend to be liberal, which means they tend to tolerate everything, which includes the intolerant. So they let them in. They let them in because they thought in good faith these people would like have their best interests. Of course they didn't. I mean, we've seen what happened to the gaming industry like as a consequence. And I'm not just talking about, like the stuff that people usually complain about, like microtransactions. I'm talking about like shitty games that are essentially just movies. And you don't really like, they'll spend shit tons of money on it and you'll just get like a fucking movie that tells you, to use people's pronouns or that you have to respect women or something, right? And so like you don't actually get a game anymore. Like if you play a really old school game, you'll find that they're just games and not sermons. Boda says the best way to gatekeep is not give them your money. Yes. Great Endor says, Brian, I know it's not the thing, but there's actually a good female director of color. But nevertheless, here they are in droves. No, I don't think there are. Okay, so let's look at this guy. I want you to pay attention to what he says about this clip about making men uncomfortable. And I want you to take a note of what he's not getting. Okay? Try to see if you can figure out what he's not getting about this. All right, let's play it.
Is this story about a woman? Is this story about a man? I simply don't care. I only care about good Star Wars. It could be an alien writing the story or directing the story. It makes no difference to me. I believe today we have equal opportunities for all the sexes, and I think that whether it's a man or woman is irrelevant to what really is a testament as to how popular and amazing Star Wars has become, and that's simply because of the story.
All the sexes? You mean both of the sexes? And who cares? If Star Wars was always run and directed and written by men, like let's say it was always men but the stories were good, would you even need to make this point? Like why do you have to do this? This is what pisses me off. Why do these guys have to say, well, I think there are amazing women. I'm going to give a bunch of examples of amazing women in this. Why? That's not what this is about. You don't get it, dude. All right, I'm going to play some more.
It's got nothing to do with any agenda or politics or anything like that, and that's what made Star Wars timeless. Now, of course, we have had...
But it does. It does now. Have you ever noticed when people... Like, this is one of the things that these people do, right? They got... and a lot of people that I really like are guilty of doing this. Gary Buechler does this, of Nerdrotic. Eric July has done this. Yellow Flash. RK Outpost, as a lot of these guys, these cultural commentators, they'll say, I don't want politics in my whatever, right? I don't want politics in my blank. And what does the left do? What do the commies do? They say, well, it always was political. And they give you a bunch of examples of how it was always political. And it could be anything because they have made the personal political. So you can't really use that argument. You can't really say, I don't want it to be political. What you can say instead is, I don't want it to be woke. I don't want it to be communist propaganda. I don't want it to be feminist propaganda. I want it to focus on story. I don't think there's a problem if there are no women involved with the project. I don't think it's a problem if there are no gay people involved with the project. I don't think it's a problem if there are no trannies playing the main character. I don't think it's a problem if there are black guys that are villains. I don't think that's a problem because that's reality. And that's what they have to do. But instead, they keep doing this thing where it's like, I'm not a racist. I'm not a sexist. I'm not a misogynist. I'm not a transphobe. And it's like, but what ends up happening is, it's like you're in a kung fu fight, right? And the opponent is using a distraction tactic, like martial arts is all about deception. So, they do like a shadowless hand or something where they think you're going to attack one way and then they hit you in the blind side, right? That's what these people are doing. They say this is about women. representation, inclusivity, diversity, etc. But it's not. It's not. And so if you get sucked into this mire, making your case as to why you're all fine with diversity, you're all fine with inclusivity, you just don't like this, that, and the other, and they already have a counter for that because they anticipate what your argument's going to be, and then they slam you down for that, when the truth is you should be like, look, I don't give a shit about who is behind the camera or in front of the camera. I want a good product, and you people are not prioritizing a good product. And you hate. You're like, look, and the thing is too, you can tell them to their face, look, actually, you don't care about women. You don't care about gays. You don't care about blacks. You don't care about like fucking Muslims. You don't care about any of these things. All you care about is destroying what we love and making us angry. And that's what you're succeeding at doing. And I know that's what you're doing. So you need to get the fuck out. That's it. And yes, I agree with Boda. You have to vote with your dollars, but it's more than that. You know, you have to convince your friends to stop supporting this shit. You have to tell your friends, guys, we're not going to the movies. You know, like, I'm not giving Hollywood another penny of my money. We're not watching these franchises. Let's watch the old ones. Let's watch the classics, you know? I mean, they're better done. So I'm going to play a little bit more of this. And then I'll move on to the next thing. I want to talk about Calendar Gate. So
many women tell Star Wars stories previously. I believe in The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, we've had many directors that were women. Bryce Dallas Howard being one of them, of course, who is a fantastic director. And, you know, I like to believe that when directors come in to write episodes and stories or direct episodes, they also do a little bit of the writing and tweaking too. It's not like they're going exactly verbatim cookie cutter from what the script says. So I personally am pretty concerned about this movie. I've seen some of Charmin's comments about how she likes to make men uncomfortable.
I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
And it just seems like, you know, if we, for a second, I want you to imagine, if we had a man saying something like that coming into a Star Wars movie, you know, it's about time that we have a man tell a Star Wars story. Or we have him saying, you know, I like to make women feel uncomfortable. I'm really failing to understand what the difference is here when one.
What I'm saying? What if the shoe was on the other foot? If a man did that, it wouldn't be allowed. Of course not, stupid. This isn't about that. Holy shit. I feel like these arguments are like 10 years old. Why haven't you people figured this out? Of course a man couldn't say it. The fact that a woman can say it is proof of female privilege and also anti-male bias. Duh. Yes. I don't give a shit what Bryce Dallas Howard has directed in her history. The Mandalorian is garbage. Boba Fett was garbage. Ahsoka was garbage. Obi-Wan was garbage. All of it was garbage. It's like, what? Oh my, this right here, this is a culture junkie. This is what I'm talking about. This guy, he can't let go. And I understand it's painful. It's painful when something that you like have been a fan of for, you know, maybe your whole life has gone to shit. And you don't want to just say, this is no longer the thing that I liked and just walk away from it. I mean, like, I'm sure there are channels out here that are still defending Doctor Who, which is basically just like completely flushed itself down the toilet, and it's only going to get worse because these culture junkies will defend whatever these cultural vandals are doing, which is essentially just destroying what they love. And they're doing it they're laughing at it. They think it's funny. I mean, like when that director said, I like to make men uncomfortable, everybody laughed. Jon Stewart just like may as well have sucked her toes because he's a piece of shit, but nonetheless, you know. And this guy is just like, wow, I fail to understand how this is okay. Well, no, I get it. I understand, because it's not about hypocrisy. It's not. It's about power. They know that. They're doing it. Like, I mean, like, why does this surprise anyone? So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Star Wars theory. You know, my heart breaks for you, dude, but you gotta stop. You gotta stop supporting these people. They're not going to stop. They will run this franchise like through the ground. It'll come out on China, end up in a concentration camp, you know, and that's where it's gonna land. And you just need to just let it go, dude. Just let it go. Just let it go. Read The Hobbit or something. All right, I'm going to chat with you guys for a second, and then we're going to look at this story about Calorie Gate, because this makes a point about what I was saying. So I made a video about the political compass being bullshit, right? And what I'm ultimately landing on, and the more of this I see around me, the more I believe this is true, there is no right. Like, the right is not a thing. I mean, it might be, like, there is, like, a concept of the right in terms of, like, the government's, you know, say in things, right? But in terms of like the cultural stuff, there's really just, in terms of where the supposed divide is, it's really just the left and the non-left. So the non-left, or the people who are not leftists, they can disagree on a whole host of things because they're not leftists, but they don't necessarily share a ton in common except that. So they might have different ideas on, you know, like what is considered profane, what is considered degenerate, what is considered, you know, like these kinds of ideas, right? About freedom and about like the function of government and the you know, whether or not marriage should be traditional and all that. And because they all differ so much, they think that there's like a, you know, like infighting going on within the quote right unquote, but it's not. It's just the non-left is just like, they're not necessarily a monolith. Like they're just kind of all over the place. I mean, there in the non-left, there's like feminists, like, you know, that some are considered to be feminists, for example. What's the name? Kelly Jean Kay or whatever her name is, the woman that was like, let women speak, you know, fighting against the trans lobby. And you got people like you know, Tim Pool is non-left, but that doesn't mean he's right-wing. And, you know, you got your Jack Posobiec and your Matt Taibbi's and your Matt Walsh's and your whatever, right? And I already talked about it on the show. I did a video on it. Please watch it. I explained it. Like, when you understand that the non-left is not a unified group, that explains why they bicker. And the bickering helps the left, who it just keeps on chugging along towards what they want, because they have framed the conversation. They have framed the paradigm as anyone who's not one of us is one of them, and all the people that they have labeled as one of them is fighting amongst each other because they differ on this thing or that thing. And what we should be doing is, like, I could have disagreements with, you know, centrists on stuff, or moderates, or moderate leftists, right? I could have disagreements with those people, but as long as they're not trying to send men with guns to my house, we can deal with that after we've dealt with the commies, the far left, the progressives, whatever you want to call it. Once we have realized that they are the ones that are the more, in my opinion, imminent and existential threat, and not just because of like shit that they say online. I'm talking about like trying to throw Trump in jail. I'm talking about people who have sent Derek Chauvin to his death. I'm talking about people who have put Enrique Tarrio in prison for 30 years. I'm talking about people who are, you know, like there was a small business owner, Chinese man in San Francisco, who his business was his business is suffering because of the policies of the state of San Francisco. And so in response to that, he made a rap music video that was a diss track on the mayor of San Francisco. And what happened was the president of the NAACP went to his house and threatened him and told him that he was using black music to you know, which I guess was appropriation or something. And they threatened his business and his family. And he had to come out and make a public apology. Now, he shouldn't have made an apology, but he is probably wondering, because in his video, he says he supported Black Lives Matter and stuff. He's probably wondering, why did they come after me? I'm not a right-wing conservative. Well, actually, yes, you are. You are because you oppose the left. This is what I mean. Anyone who opposes the left is labeled a right-wing conservative. So instead of trying to figure out how to distance yourself from that label, maybe you should focus on opposing the left and just ignore what they accuse you of and stop looking at it like a slur because it doesn't mean anything. And I don't think it ever meant anything. I know that there are people on, that call themselves conservatives, but I think if you drill down on what because like calling yourself something doesn't make you a thing. But if you drill down on what they actually believe, you'll find that it's not as simple as people would presume. And that is also by design. So people have to stop with the labeling. Like, I live in Virginia now, and I deal with a mix of people. Like it's not as conservative as you would think, but the liberals here are reasonable of the ones I've met. Now in Chicago, there's a straight up like communist headquarters there. There was a Maoist bookstore like down the street from my house. Like it's far left when it's left. There are Antifa flags on people's lawns, okay? But here it's a lot more like, I don't know, moderate. And I find that the people here are very nice. And so like when I did the show yesterday and in some recent shows, Allison will go on tirades about conservatives and how, that she'll make these kind of veiled accusations of them being xenophobic and racist because they focus on, Muslim immigrants and migrants. And I'm like, but Allison, like, look, I get that those guys are men, but they're still breaking the law, but they're still crossing the border illegally, but they're still dangerous. Like, I don't think that saying, I'd like my border to be closed. It'd be like saying, I want to lock my front door. I don't want strangers coming in my house. That's not misandry, And plus, I think it's weird to associate negative traits with conservatism. Like to say, oh, conservatives, they're racist and sexist. Well, so they're all the bad things. Have you not even considered that doesn't make sense? Who decided that? Well, the left did, of course. They started by separating between liberal and conservative. And so they can call themselves liberals. And then they started pushing the liberals out by saying that they're not liberal enough. So it's like if you accept the framework, you're going to operate within a paradigm that will guarantee that you lose. And yes, what Allison calls the conservatives are operating within the leftist paradigm, and they are going to lose. But it's not their fault. Like it's not the fault of whatever you mean by the word conservative that it's happening. It's just like the right. That's like it's too broad a brush, and it doesn't apply neatly to people, right? Like somebody, I think it was Albert Nada, commented on my video saying that Megyn Kelly is not a feminist. Yes, she is, dude. Yeah, she's not like a current like third wave feminist. But if you propose a lifestyle as being good for women of her stature, Matt Walsh, he made those comments, and Megyn Kelly was like, well, I'm a strong, independent career woman, that's a feminist line. There was no need to say that. You didn't have to say anything at all. You could have been like, well, to each their own, right? I choose to live this way. But no, it was defensive. And Megyn Kelly sees women as a collective. The thing is that most women do. This is the way women work. They tend to see things in collectives. So, supposed conservative women, and again, I don't even know what that means, but supposed women that are not on the left are still women. And so they're going to have certain biases, they tend to be more collectivist, they tend to be more concerned with security, they tend to take things personal when it's not applied to them specifically. This is just the nature of women, and we can't avoid it. So, yeah, if you guys disagree, give me a good case for why Megyn Kelly is not a feminist in the comments. I would say she's a second wave feminist. And that probably around there, yeah. She's probably a second wave feminist. Plus, she was on board with the Me Too thing. They made a whole movie about these women at Fox News making these allegations, and she was one of the characters. I mean, she didn't act in the film. Somebody played her, but I can't remember the name of the movie. But I think you guys know what I'm talking about. There was a film made about like 3 women that worked at Fox News, and it was a Me Too movie. So, and it was about Megyn Kelly, and she didn't come out and she didn't come out to disavow it or anything. She agreed with it. Now, maybe you think, oh, stuff goes down at Fox News. Well, you know what? We have we have systems in place for that already. You know, you have a problem with somebody at work, go to HR, go to the police, go to somebody. Don't go make a movie about it. So that, and I have to, I think it's only fair because when, they made a movie about Harvey Weinstein, I think that might be the same one. I'm not even sure. And all the accusations he had, right? And they had all these women in there. I said the same thing. I was like, well, I think this is propaganda. I mean, it is propaganda, obviously. So yeah, I think Megyn Kelly's a feminist. So that makes my point. What I'm saying is that, Tomi Lahren, I said, she's pro-choice, right? This is the thing that got her in hot water with the Blaze, why she ended up leaving. And she still has a lot of feminist ideas about men. So, well, I mean, it's not a radical notion to me. Anyway, let me look at your comments. We're going to talk about Calendar Gate because that fits right in. And let me see, it's 1:40. So then maybe I'll go for an hour on in Badger's Gate 3 and see how far we get. So let me see. Boda says we'll hear about him ODing in his bathroom from the copium. Yeah, it's just easier to let go, Boda says it's always been political. It's just not the politics that they don't like. Yes. And then he says, so instead of creating their own, they hijack and corrupt the art they hate. Yes, they eat it up. And that goes all the way back in art history. I studied art history and I saw the movements within that go way back, to the Victorian times. Probably before that, actually. Toby says they're framing the response. Yes. When that woman says, I like to make men uncomfortable, she's anticipating the backlash that she's going to bait out. And culture junkies are the ones that are going to give her the backlash that she wants. Because, people like me, I'm not even going to watch it. I don't care. I'm way past Star Wars. I mean, I like Star Wars now in the same way that I love, the original Die Hard or Predator or Big Trouble in Little China. They're classic films I'll go back and watch. If they announce today they're going to make a sequel to Big Trouble in Little China, even if they had John Carpenter, even if they got Kurt Russell, I'd be like, nah. I don't think that would I just don't want it, Blade Kaiser says, the thing is a man would never say that. Yeah, of course they wouldn't. Men, that's another thing that you make a good point about. Men generally do not do things.
What is the
sorry, hold on. Men generally do not do things that don't benefit women. They don't generally spit in the face of women. They generally do stuff that they think is going to please women. So it's of course that man is not going to happen because they would never do it. Okay. Zarank says if they put a Latinx in their work, they'd have to include their family and Christian themes, and you can't make abuela and abuelo look bad being faithful followers of Christ. You know what? They do that, with Latino characters in fiction. They make them, they do this clever thing where they don't address the religion directly, but you can certainly see the aesthetic. It's kind of like trad thoughts. Trad thoughts, and that's kind of what this Calendar Gate thing is about. Trad thoughts they wear the costume of a traditional housewife, but they don't really know the lifestyle. They're just doing it because they think it appeals to men. And it does. And I think there is a kind of a side effect that's a benefit of that, but I can come back to that later. Zarang says, I don't want Christian themes in my Latinx story. Tough. Their family is more likely to be Christians and go to church, grin and bear it. More specifically Catholics, which is hardcore, A Great Endor says, I don't think he even argues that in case of a man, it wouldn't be allowed. Boda says, how large is his channel? Maybe he's afraid. Oh, he's like 3 million. He's big channel. 3.3 million subscribers. He's being very careful, but I actually don't think that's true. I think he really believes that pointing out the hypocrisy and making the rational case, like the making this rational case of like, well, why do we accept this? I think that he really believes it. Like, this is like, this is the level of cope we're dealing with. This is the level of culture junkyism that we have. These people, it's like they don't want their brand to die, so they'll do anything to hold on to it. And if it looks like it's going in a really bad direction, be like, please, can we just turn the ship around? I really like the ship. Can we turn the ship around? It's not going to happen, guys. It's over. They don't care. They will run this into the ground. And I'm telling people this. I get no happiness out of it. It doesn't. I hate art get destroyed. I'm an artist. I love the arts, and I hate to see it, but it is happening. And the only reason why I'm making sure that you guys understand that is because you have to be able to protect things in the future. And then a lot of this stuff, it's already like it's on its way, right? And almost everything that I can think of that I grew up with and loved has headed in this direction. Zarek says, I think first season of Mandalorian was good. It was an RPG campaign. Yeah, it was okay, but it lost the plot, I think, pretty quick. And then when you start thinking about like some of the lore stuff, it doesn't make any sense. Toby Adling says, is that they can't let go or they can't think the thing is even happening? Well, it's a bit of both. I don't think they know the thing is happening. I think that they think that these people making these films care about this property because they care about this property and they couldn't imagine somebody not caring about this property. Boda says 3.3 million subs. He wants to keep his channel monetized. Yeah, possibly. Blade Kaiser says there are literally Star Wars books, comics, and fanfic better than the latest movies. Go consume that. Heck, your time would be better spent making a fanfic or going on adventures with your favorite character. Yeah. Grandeur says Posey Parker. That's who it was. She is another left-winger, but just less unhinged. Well, that's why she's considered conservative now. And that's why when and this is like, going back to like the old Kevin Logan days. Remember when Kevin Logan used to call everybody a right-wing conservative? He's showing us like that was a preview of today. I knew it. I was like, why are you calling us that? Like, I didn't get it. You're a right-wing conservative. Well, now I understand it because right-wing conservative is just a slur. It doesn't mean anything. It's just them saying you're not one of us. That's all it is. It's literally like fucking Donald Sutherland at the end of the thing going, Aah! That's all it is. It doesn't mean anything. Okay. Boda says the left isn't what I would call unified. You have TERFs, TIFs, and people like Shu. Yeah, I think Shu and those people, Anna Kasparian, I think they get pushed out. I think the left is concentrating, but people are getting expelled. And I would say, yes, those people are also on the left. I wouldn't say it's a monolith. I'm not claiming that. But I think that it's important to know that at the end of the day, there isn't that much difference. Even though Shu doesn't share all the same ideas as, say, a TERF does, like Maria, whatever her name is that we've been responding to lately, Maria McLaughlin, or, Julie Bindel. She may not be like in their boat, but she's close enough. I mean, hopefully she'll wake up and move away. This is kind of what I think happens. Like, sometimes they get like a wake up call and they're like, wait a minute, this is all wrong. And they start drifting away, and maybe they still hold on to some of their, beliefs. But, well, I guess it depends. They either go, like one way where they completely like fall away from this, or they go like they double down the other way. It become like Hunter Avallone, or what's the name of that guy? Oh shit, he used to have these videos. He would start off by going, "Oh my goodness, Amazing Lucas." He completely went woke, completely. And I mean, it probably served his channel well. He's probably like making a lot of money. I don't know. Because I know that if I wanted to make money at YouTube, like easy money, I would become woke. I would say, oh, I had a come to Jesus moment, and but like did the absolute opposite. I had a come to Satan moment, and I'm a feminist now. I would make shit. I would hand over fist. I'd make money. Boda says, "Oh no, I'm sorry." Grandor says conservatism is very mid-tier. Well, I don't think it means anything. Grandor says, "I bet Megyn Kelly is a Me Too." Well, you already said it. Yes, I did. Boda says she was a leftist. Yes. Richard says it's called Bombshell. Oh, the movie. That's right. It's called Bombshell. That's right. Boda says I wouldn't even pirate it. That's true. Boda says South Park is the only exception. They'll target anyone except Israel. Well, then they're not an exception, Boda. I think that they do play it pretty safe. I would say that Matt and Trey are I wouldn't call them like leftists, but they're not trying to rattle the cages too much. Just a little. Like that's why when they did that Disney Star Wars episode, they were trying to do a both sides thing, but it's not a both sides thing. I mean, it's not. Like fans having opinions is not the same as a multi-billion-dollar corporation like sinking a franchise into the ground. It's just not the same thing, guys. Come on, it's not. It's not the same. Fish got nukes. What's up? Grandor says I do RLM, but every so often they do bring the both sides arguments. Who's RLM? Yeah, I don't know what that means. Lucas is such trite crap now. I'm still subbed to OMG, unironically. Yeah, I mean, I was never subbed to him. I see his videos around. I think I watched a few and I was like, well, this is all stuff I've said before myself. So I'm not really all that impressed. And you know, a lot of times the guys that like make arguments that are not like they're kind of regurgitating talking points, a lot of times those guys actually don't know what they're arguing for, and that's why they're more likely to flip. A Norwegian says the moment South Park goes after everyone is the moment they get taken off the air. Yeah, I think they have to be. If they go after Israel, they're gone. Zering says, I think the people who get pushed out like Shu will create a new hive mind that will repeat what they were kicked out of. It's like the former group wasn't conducted properly. Yes. Red Letter Media, right? Those guys, I think they kind of play it safe too. All right. So anyway, let's go to this video. This is from Pop Culture Crisis, which I've been seeing a lot lately. I don't know if like the algorithm's been kind to them or whatever, but they're talking about Calendargate, and I want to tell you my thoughts on this because I think it's very interesting. All right, so let's play a little bit of this.
Here's the context. You guys might already be familiar, but if you're not, in case you missed it, this brand called Conservative Dads, started by Seth Weathers. It's also the brand that put out ultra right beer in response to the Bud Light controversy. They decided to create it's not a bikini calendar, it's just a calendar of women. Okay?
Women of America.
Yes, it's called Conservative Dads Real Women of America 2024 calendar. And Riley Gaines is on the cover. So, you know that this is really also a response to, trans identifying males invading women's spaces, and they're using a percent of the proceeds to donate to the Riley Gaines Center to protect women's sports from extreme leftist ideology seeking to destroy real women. And they had 12 conservative influencers on the calendar, and they included Kim Klacik, Ashley St. Clair, Sarah Gonzalez, our own coworker, actually, Josie the Redheaded Libertarian, Catalina Loff, Bethany Bartlett, Peyton Drew. I hadn't heard of all of these women. The point is, it's not quite a bikini calendar. They're just scantily clad in some, and in others, they're just wearing a normal outfit. But it's catered to conservative men, right? But it's not racy. It's not as racy as it sounds. No. Like, I wouldn't call.
All right, let me just get in here really quick, okay? So you have a calendar. I didn't look into this. I didn't really know about this until like the other day. And apparently there's a bunch of people on Twitter that think of themselves as being on the right or conservative, arguing about whether or not the calendar is appropriate. Now, this is the thing that I think is really interesting about this. She describes this as for conservative men. I don't understand what that means. This is what I mean by the word not meaning anything. Are you saying that non-conservative men would not find these women attractive? I mean, I haven't seen the calendar, but I'm guessing that all men that have blood pumping through their veins and they're not dead will find attractive women attractive. I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care if you're a communist. I think that men, we we know what good looking women look like, and we like that. There are even the women who are like the body positive ones that grow hair on their legs and grow out their armpits and mustaches and all that and say all bodies are beautiful, blah, blah, blah. There will be left-wing men that will, they'll retweet them and Yas Queen them and all that, but they don't really like them. They like the hot chicks. So if these are hot chicks, then this is not a calendar for conservative men. This is a calendar for men. Okay, so first of all, that doesn't make sense. I get what they're saying, but I don't think it. The problem is they're using this language that doesn't make sense. And the issue that I think people have is that men enjoy attractive women. I mean, I think that if anything, I haven't seen all the pictures. I think I saw one. If anything, it's cheesecake. It's like pinup girls from the 1940s and 50s, okay? So pinup girls, if you had like a photo of a woman in a like a poodle skirt and a blouse, and she's like out in the rain and like like these like pinup girls, like maybe they have a swimsuit, maybe they're wearing a military uniform and they're saluting, maybe they're sitting on a giant like airplane, whatever. They got a sailor outfit on. It's cute. It's cute, and men like that. I mean, the bomber art existed to keep men motivated during World War II. It was like, it was sort of propaganda that says to the men who were fighting in wars, look at what you're going to come back to. That's essentially the purpose of it, right? They would send women to like the camps, and they would put on little shows for the men to remind them, this is what you're doing this for. It was to remind them of that. So if they make a calendar and there's attractive women in it, like, how is that conservative? I don't think it is. But see, this is the thing. Like, people get addicted to these labels. They're addicted to the label. They're associating things with a label that don't make sense. So that's one thing, right? And okay, so there are some people who are against it and some people are for it, and they're trying to make sense of this. But the truth is, when it comes to things like, what is appropriate, what is racy, what is considered more, I guess, how do I put this? More sexual or less sexual. Well, that varies from person to person. I don't think it's political to have an opinion on that. I mean, there's plenty of like guys that like sexy ladies wearing various amounts of clothing. I don't think that's how can you attribute a political position on this? And the fact that they're talking about it in this way only clarifies for me what I've been saying. Like this is like the framework is all wrong, Let me see. Grindor says again, apparently women have no authority over their own lives according to conservatives. Well, actually, most of the people complaining are supposedly conservative women, not men. The men don't have a problem with this. So you're not looking. This is the thing that they're missing. Okay, this is not about conservative and liberal. This is women engaging in intersexual competition by shaming other women. That's all it is. This has nothing to do with politics. The problem is that men are enjoying this. That's the problem. Zering says the old pinups were more risque. Okay. I haven't seen the calendar, so. Zering says, I don't know if they show what CCG Bryson brought up that caused the kerfuffle, but Josie is in the kitchen wearing an apron, and there's a cross in the background. It's pinup light. Yeah, but a cross in the background, what does that mean? I mean, look, that's another thing that I don't get, okay? There are different denominations of Christianity. They're all different, especially within Protestantism. If she's dressed in a racy way and she has a cross in the background, first of all, I don't think there's anything like non-Christian about being an attractive woman. But I think that's a complete misnomer. Full stop. Okay? But that being said, like if, depending on, again, her denomination, it doesn't say anything about her. And just because somebody says I'm a Christian, it doesn't determine, like, you can't know what their morality is based on that. because people are hypocrites. And it doesn't matter if they're Christians or atheists or Muslims or Jews. It doesn't matter. Like, people don't live up to the things. It's just like I said already, okay? Just because you call yourself something doesn't mean you are that thing. That's what I'm saying. You could say, "Oh, I'm a Christian." So, I don't know. How do you live? "Oh, I'm a Muslim." Okay. I don't know what that means. Like, how do you live? Just saying you're something. It's like saying I'm a woman. Right? It doesn't mean anything. I mean, even females who say they are ladies are not necessarily ladies if they're not behaving in a ladylike manner. Okay. Fish Got Nuke says also all the men were dead, so when they got home, all the women actually STFU. A Norwegian says, yet again, no one can agree on anything. Yeah, because we think that we're supposed to, but we're not. The fact that we do diverge in all these ways is better. I would rather live amongst people like that than, amongst people who essentially try to make you fall in line. CCG Bryson, his comment was, "It's demonic." I don't know who that is. Is he like a fundamentalist or something? Because yeah, there are people like that. Blade Kaiser says, "Yeah, I heard about this a few days ago. I still don't get it." Boda says, "Modesty is supposed to be Christian." Yeah, but how do you measure modesty? I get that, but so maybe she's a hypocrite, is what I'm saying. But that's not okay. I'll put it this way. If she's not doing what she's supposed to be doing, that isn't a slight against Christianity. It's just a slight against her. So that's how it should be, right? If a black guy robs a liquor store, you don't say this is what black people do. You say that's what this black person did. Great Endure says a woman can be a complete knockout without having to revert to wearing racy outfits. Well, it depends on how racy it is. I don't even know if it's that risque. Like Zerank said, it's not even that risque. Great Endure says the outfits are indeed a symptom of competition amongst women. Yes, it is. And this is the thing that they miss, is that they're making this about conservative men and I guess liberal men. I don't know. And they're missing the point. It's not even men. I don't think there's many men complaining, maybe some. But I don't think there's many of them complaining. I think most men are like, ooh, I think the most offensive thing is that it's got biological women in it and not like trans women. Nude women is more modest. Artistic nudes, I'm more of the opinion that modesty is an attitude or mindset. I've often remarked that with the way some women dress, I can imagine a woman in risque pants and shirt next to a nude woman, and the nude woman will be more modest. Oh, I see. Okay. I needed the context. All right. Anyway, let's play a little bit more of this. And yeah, let's listen to some more.
All this demonic, I wouldn't call it pornographic necessarily. Some of the photos are scantily clad. That's what it's supposed to be. And I wouldn't call that conservative, but this turned into a gigantic, monumental hullabaloo. It turned into a debate about political philosophy. What does it mean to be a conservative? What does it mean to be a woman? It's like, what is a woman, but what is a conservative? And
this is perhaps the definition of terminally online.
Look, besides the issue of, is this conservative? Let's ask ourselves, is this cringy? And let's be honest, it's a little bit cringy. The execution of this idea, it didn't exactly hit the mark. Would you agree?
Look, here's the issue. I blame a lot of this on the coalition building that the right did under Trump, meaning that what was once a 90s Democrat or traditional old school liberal is now thrown under the banner of conservatism. Certainly, I'm here on a show that's part of a network that gets labeled as right wing, and anybody who watches this show knows that I am not myself a right wing person, right? So,
yes, but you are. This is what I'm getting at. Do you see what I'm saying, guys? See, they're confused. Why are you calling us right wing? I'm not right wing. Well, that means you are, or at least to the left, you are, because you can't really avoid it. You might as well just stop fighting about it and say, okay, sure. I guess so. I'm not one of you, so I must be one of them, right? So when he says, I don't understand this, or when she says, this isn't this is what is a conservative? Yeah, that's a good question, because it doesn't mean anything, guys. It doesn't mean anything. So I just wanted to make that case. I think that it proves what I'm getting at, which is people who are operating under the paradigm of the political compass are they're falling into a trap. They're falling into a trap. Instead of trying to convince us that because a lot of times it comes down to this. It comes down to people saying, look, I'm decent and I am rational and I am thoughtful and I am a good person. Therefore, I'm not right wing. I'm not conservative. I'm not liberal or whatever. Most of the time, people don't even say that. They usually just say, I'm not right wing. I'm not conservative, whatever, right? Oh, I never vote Republican, whatever it is. And the truth is, all of that is like meaningless. It doesn't actually mean anything. You're falling into the trap. You see what I'm saying? What you should be saying is, like, when people ask me what my politics are, and I say, well, would you like to know what my values are? And I'll give you my values. And you just go with that. Because when you tell someone, what wing you're on or whatever, they start associating a bunch of shit to it. It's one of the things that I end up getting annoyed with Allison about, because when she says conservative, she associates it with racist and xenophobic and these kinds of things, and it's like, why? Like, the left isn't racist? I mean, what does racist even mean? Like honestly, like, it's sort of like misogynistic. Like, what feminists will say, that conservative men are misogynistic. So, like, why do we believe this? I think it's why do we believe this thing that we are told when it doesn't actually make sense? When you look at it, when you really start, like, digging into the details, I think that you should stop playing into this trap. Now, of course, you guys do whatever you want, but this is how I'm going to operate. I'm not going to use that language. I'm not going to use the left's language. I think the left's language is a trap. I don't use the word capitalism because I think it's a trap. I don't use the word racism. I don't use the word sexism. I don't use the word homophobe. I don't use any of those words. Those are their words. They can have them. Because if you use their language, you lose.